Welcome to our DRRR or Disaster Readiness and Risk Reduction class. So what is the subject all about? So this course focuses on the application of scientific knowledge and the solution of practical problems in a physical environment. It is designed to bridge the gap between theoretical science and daily living. And why disaster readiness and risk reduction is important? So it is mainly because it helps us identify and map local capacities to cope with these hazards. So ultimately, the DRRR approach helps us conduct effective disaster response while reducing risk that similar disaster will reoccur. It also ensures that our emergency response thus no harm by replacing or reinstating critical vulnerabilities. Hope you enjoy studying DRRR while gaining knowledge and skills that you can apply in our daily living. Our first lesson is all about the basic concept of disaster and disaster risk. Here are the objectives of our lesson. After going through this module, you are expected to understand the meaning of disaster, justify different kinds of disasters that are common in the Philippines, observe surroundings and every situation that you may encounter, and last one is to appreciate the significance of knowing disaster risk and how it may affect one's life. Let's start our discussion by giving the reasons why Philippines is a country prone to natural disasters. So the Philippines has experienced from an inexhaustible number of deadly earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and other natural disasters. The first reason is the Pacific Ring of Fire, or also called as Circum-Pacific Belt. This is due to its location along the Ring of Fire, a large Pacific Ocean region where many volcanic eruptions and earthquakes occur. According to PHIVOLCS, there are about 300 volcanoes in the Philippines, and 22 of these are active, while the large percentage remains dormant. Some active volcanoes in our country includes Mayon, being the most active, Taal in Batangas, Canlaon in Negros Island, Bulusan in Sorsogon, and Pinatubo in Zambales. And also, Philippines is an earthquake-prone country, registering quakes every day, though most are not felt. So PHIVOLCS records an average of 20 earthquakes a day, and 100 to 150 earthquakes are felt per year. Second one is the Pacific Typhoon Belt. So Philippines is highly exposed to natural hazards because it lies along the Pacific Typhoon Belt. Approximately 20 tropical cyclones enter the Philippine area of responsibility yearly, an area which incorporates parts of the Pacific Ocean, the West Philippine Sea, and the Philippine Archipelago. In each year, 10 cyclones are usually expected to be typhoons, with 5 having the potential to be destructive ones. According to 2013 Time magazine article, the Philippines is the most exposed country in the world to tropical storms. The Philippine language, tropical cyclones are generally called bagyo. To name some devastating typhoons that every Filipino can't forget are Yolanda, Ondoy, Santi, Rolly, and Pablo. Now we are down to the meaning of disasters. So disaster is a sudden calamitous occurrence that causes great harm, injury, destruction, and devastation to life and property. We have here highlighted word which is sudden. So when we say sudden, that is occurring or done quickly and unexpectedly or without warning. Since it happens unexpectedly, it may causes great damage, loss, destruction, and devastation to life and property. So that is why preparedness and reducing the risk is really important. Another definition for disaster, so according to Food and Agricultural Organization in 2008, disaster is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impact, which exceeds the ability of the affected community, or society to cope using its own resources. The United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction also defines disaster as a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts, which exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. Based from the definitions given, we can say that disasters is a sudden calamitous event, and its impacts may include loss of life, injury, disease, and other negative effects on human physical, mental, and social well-being, together with the damage to properties, destruction of assets, loss of services, social and economic disruptions, and environmental degradation. Next is the classification of disasters. Disasters can be divided into 2 large categories, which are the natural and man-made disasters. First in the list is the natural disasters. So natural disaster are natural phenomenon that is caused by natural forces. From the word itself, natural, so it is existing in or caused by nature and not made or caused by humankind. We also have here some examples of natural disasters. We have storm surge, drought and water shortage, earthquakes, tropical storm, landslide and debris flow, thunderstorm and lightning. We also have tornadoes, tsunamis, wildfires, sinkholes, emergency diseases, extreme heat, flash floods, and La Nina, or location exposed to natural hazards. So in the first column, we have here the areas or location. And the second column, we have here the natural hazards. Areas or location near in coastal areas are exposed to storm surge, tsunami, and tidal waves, while locations or reclaimed areas are exposed to flooding and sinkhole. Third one, locations or areas near fault lines are exposed to earthquake. Fourth one, areas on foot of denuded mountains are exposed to mudslide or landslide. Near volcanoes are exposed to volcanic eruptions, and areas in riverbanks and esteros are exposed to flooding or flash flood. And last one, we have the open field, and those are exposed to thunderstorm or hailstorm. The second classification of disaster is what we call man-made. Disasters caused by man are those in which major direct causes are identifiable intentional or non-intentional human action. So man-made disasters are hazards or disasters caused by man. Man-made disasters are subdivided into three categories. First one is technological or industrial disaster. From the title itself, it is something to do with technology or industry. Unregulated industrialization and inadequate safety standards increase the risk for industrial disaster. Some examples of technological and industrial disasters are leaks of hazardous materials, accidental explosion, bridge or road collapses, or vehicle collision, and power cuts. Second category is terrorism or violence. The threat of terrorism has also increased due to the spread of technologies involving nuclear, biological, and chemical agents used to develop weapons of mass destruction. Some examples of terrorism are bombs or explosions, release of chemical materials, release of biological agents, release of radioactive agents, multiple or massive shootings, and mutinies. The third category is what we call complex humanitarian emergencies. So the term complex emergency is usually used to describe the humanitarian emergency resulting from an international or civil war. In such situations, large numbers of people are displaced from their homes due to the lack of personal safety and the disruption of basic infrastructure, including food distribution, water, electricity, and sanitation. Or communities are left stranded and isolated in their own homes, unable to access assistance. Next, we have the areas or location exposed to man-made hazards. Areas near oil depot are exposed to oil spill and pollution. Near mining projects are exposed to toxic waste. Near chemical plants, exposed to chemical fumes and chemical waste. Locations near nuclear plants are exposed to nuclear waste. Next, we have near factories exposed to factory waste and pollution. Unsafe building structure are exposed to fire. And last one, areas or public places in megacities are exposed to terrorism. Next is risk and disaster risk. Risk is defined as the combination of the probability of an event and its negative consequences. That is according to United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction of 2009. The term risk is thus multidisciplinary and is used in a variety of contexts. It is usually associated with the degree to which humans cannot cope with a situation. Next, the term disaster risk refers to the potential, so not actual and realized, disaster losses in lives, health status, livelihoods, assets, and services which could occur in a community or society over some specified future time period. Disaster risk is the product of the possible damage caused by a hazard due to the vulnerability within a community, and it should be noted that the effect of hazard or a particular magnitude would affect communities differently. So that is according to von Kotzke of 1999. And now we have here the elements of disaster risk. Disaster risk can also be determined by the presence of three variables. First one is hazard. So it tells us about how big and how often it is. Second one is vulnerability to a hazard, or how does each exposed element respond to the level of hazard. And last is the exposure, or what elements are at risk. Is it people, building, infrastructure, agriculture, and etc. And that ends our discussion for basic concepts of disaster and disaster risk.